Hi, this is Pia, and today we have the privilege of speaking with Dr. Nandini Menon, a seasoned school administrator with a doctorate in education and over 20 years of academic leadership experience. She has been actively promoting student achievement, intercultural relations, and environmental stewardship in schools. Dr. Menon is also the founder and chief education officer of Cedar Hill Prep School in Somerset, New Jersey, and the New Jersey Institute of Nature. So let's talk to her about her remarkable journey and accomplishments in education and entrepreneurship. Welcome, Dr. Menon. How are you today?
I am wonderful.
Tell me, let's first start with your background and how you ventured into the field of education and school administration.
So, I think I am the poster child for someone who evolved as she aged. So, like a typical Indian family, an overachieving family, where the parents decide and chart your course, I was, of course, doing the sciences towards pre-medicine, but there was also the part of me that loved the arts, loved culture, loved nature. And I needed all that to fit into my life, saying I didn't want it to be steered in a specific direction. And mind you, I say that because you need to understand, I did my schooling more than 30 years back. So it cannot be put in the context of today's education.
Absolutely.
So today, most children have opportunities that I would have dreamt of then. So in my case, I had to chart my own journey, which was I wanted a combination of the sciences and the arts. And eventually that's what led me to do textile engineering. And in the 90s, I will say I was one of the very few designers in New York City on Fifth Avenue designing home furnishings for the American market.
Wow.
So it was a journey. But it was a beautiful journey because in it, I realized every day we are learning different things, but it is up to us to connect all that and transfer it to any new journey we want to start.
Absolutely. And I think that beautiful journey for you is still continuing.
That is correct. I'm a lifelong learner, much to the people who live with me who think I'll stop now, but I don't seem to, because I truly believe you live once, but you need to be in an environment that fosters learning, not an environment where you're learning for validation or you're learning for grades. That is when you learn only till you get your grades, but you don't take that and make connections and take it forward.
Absolutely. And I think, that kind of a thinking only comes when you are like certain age that you don't need validation from anybody. You want to do things for yourself.
I could not agree with you more, but more than validation, I will say we need to live in an ecosystem where the people around us are positive and encourage us, and it is not judgmental. When you live in a judgmental environment, right, where even the person you're living with or your friends are always either benchmarking you about how you look, whether you gained weight, you lost weight, or whether you are smart or not. These are subliminal messages telling you that maybe you have shortcomings. Instead, why? Why do we all have to benchmark each other? Let us just continue our own journey to feel good about ourselves. And I think that is when we foster learning and we become more confident.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Nandini, as a passionate advocate for intercultural relations and environmental stewardship, how have you incorporated these values into your educational programs?
So I will say the first thing is take pride in the fact that you are an intercultural person. So for me, growing up in India, my father worked for the central government. And what did that mean? That meant every 3 years you were in another part of a state.
Absolutely.
Another part of India and another state. And in India, just moving from one state to another is a multicultural experience. The cultural practices are different. The beliefs are different. Women, for example, whether you have equity, is so different from state to state.
Absolutely.
So from very young, I was born in Calcutta and then Patna, Siliguri, Guwahati, and then my dad eventually moved down south because my grandparents have lands and he, being the older person, wanted to be closer to his mother. So, and then we moved to Coimbatore, and then eventually my college, etc., was in Bangalore. But that experience allowed me to, speak many languages fluently. And why was that important? Because in the end, we all want to belong.
Absolutely.
We don't want to be seen as different. We want to belong. So that allowed me to be this person who could pick up words and communicate. Fast forward, then you come here to study. Because you've already been through this multicultural experience, coming to another country, learning their ways is not such a big hurdle anymore.
Right.
And English just allows you to communicate with anyone. So what that does is it builds you, and then you also empathetically build others. So when you see people from different cultures and you see their struggles, you can reflect back and say, you know what it is. So when you approach them, you don't approach them with a deficit syndrome. You instead embrace them, make them feel good. You use a few words that from their language, and immediately they feel like you are one of them. To me, today in the corporate world, we have this, DEI mandate. But I always ask many people that are on the boards of companies or have positions of power, how many of your friends look different from another culture? So unless you actually embrace it yourself, you truly are not ready for intercultural immersion. And how that helps me is, as an educator, having a school, my children will always, when they see incidences of people looking at them or somebody else with a deficit syndrome, they'll always say, Ms. Dan, that will never happen at CHP. Here we are all one. And I think we all need to embrace that as individual cultures and as people living in a multicultural society.
And I think that's very, very important what you just said. And I have to say that your achievements are truly very, very impressive, from obtaining the international baccalaureate candidacy to winning robotics championships. So how do you foster a culture of excellence and success in your institutions?
So to me, one thing as adults we need to learn is get away from the habit of do as I say. And you should rather be an exemplar or mentor, an example for people to look at you and say, do as she or he does.
Right.
So for me, if I wasn't learning and sharing with my students and the teachers the gridlocks that you face, whether it is microaggressions from your professors, etc., and then you make it human to the students, then they realize you too are having the same struggles as they are. And when they see you learning, they want to learn more. And also, it's not just about learning. I also believe the most important thing that parents and other adults need to realize is we all love patterns. Right. Why do we brush our teeth first thing in the morning? Why do we believe, like we grew up with a sense of having 3 meals a day? And structure is what children crave. Children want predictability. They want patterns. So when we in the school set structure, which is we actually give children planners as young as when they're in grade 1 so that they can write what they need to do when they go home. We teach them note taking. We teach them how to study, how to get their room organized, how to use Post-its, what's due tomorrow, day after. So we teach them that. And the kids who are most successful, 9 out of 10 times, the parents are equally organized. And the parents take what we tell them in the school and practice it at home. Most times there's conflict when parents themselves are not organized or time-bound. Then this poor child is like a hamster. They don't know who to listen to, So I always say, keep it simple for them and you show them how you do it. When you show them, then they are visually seeing how it works and they emulate it.
Absolutely. And as they say, they are a reflection of you. What you do, they'll follow it.
Correct.
So, Nandini, I was going through your bio and the New Jersey Institute of Nature. It really sounded very fascinating. So, just explain its vision and mission and how it supports your future scholars and entrepreneurs.
Thank you for asking that question. So, New Jersey Institute of Nature is an experiential learning place that we put together so that we take our students from Cedar Hill Prep every month to the farm so that they open their books and we teach them whatever, whether it is math, we use look at the leaves, look at the symmetry. We teach them science as it is, pond ecology. Also, nature is therapy. These children are so overstimulated that they tell me when they come to the farm, it is like they believe it gives them calmness. They're able to actually absorb more information. We go on hikes. They look at the horses and I show them how horses play with each other. And I say, look how they all look a little different, but they're playing happily. So these are non-threatening ways for children. They're not being benchmarked. They're not being assessed. But guess what? They're observing and they're listening. In today's world, we want everyone to speak. We want everyone to write. But we don't encourage observing, listening.
Absolutely.
And this is why I'm passionate about, integrating experiential learning to traditional learning and connecting it to today's life. Connecting it to, okay, let's go to a pharmacist, let's go to a CVS and look at all that's there. Let's go back and see how much of it is from nature. So we artificially create some of those materials and give them in a pill. But what if we went back to history, looked at how original medicine was? There's nothing today in the market, whether it's materials, whether it is medicine, whether it is even our clothes, that doesn't come from nature. But who's connecting these dots for the children?
Tell me, you have been associated with the New Jersey Association of Gifted Children. So how do you empower educators and students to reach their full potential?
Trying to educate the larger audience about focus on what kind of instruction the child is getting, how much instruction, and how much interaction and communication there is. And also children learn from other children. So peer-to-peer learning is also good. And the teacher can sit and act as a facilitator. And when you listen to two children discussing content, you can see who understood, who misunderstood, and who did not understand. So that's a teachable moment. On the next level, I always say, today the most debated hot topic in Central Jersey is homework. You have certain cultures who love homework, certain cultures who do not. But let's parse through this. It's not the homework, it is the perception. So we have people who want their kids to be really good in sports. They never question the practice, they never question the drills, and they do not question why you need to be coached for skill development. Yet, why is it that where content is concerned, people truly believe that whatever they learn in school should stay in the school and it should not be reviewed at home? To me, there's this body of work by Roediger, and I will say with Indian culture, we are big believers in building memory. Chanting, mantras are all about that. Just take a leaf out of that. When you get familiar with what you learned today in class, when you go home, you're able to retain 70% of that in your prefrontal cortex, and eventually it becomes long-term memory. On the other hand, if you don't review what was taught today, and if you go to class tomorrow and learn a new thing, you would have forgotten more than 80% of what was learned because you couldn't connect it. So learning is connecting prior knowledge to new knowledge. And what I would like parents to now say is, okay, what do you really want for your child? They do need to practice. They need to review what was learned, and they need to build their memory skills. But I do hear some people say that, oh, homework is busy work, or homework is what the teacher did not teach. Now there I agree that needs to be examined again. But homework is really homework, reviewing what was done in class, and so that you're prepared for tomorrow. And I think with the New Jersey Institute of Gifted Children and such things, the goal is for educators to explain these finer details so that there are less misconceptions and parents are able to help their child navigate to be successful.
So, Nandini, let's talk about the Cedar Hill Prep. Building Cedar Hill Prep School from a 200,000 business model to a $12 million budget with extensive facilities, I think it's remarkable. What were some of the challenges you faced and how did you overcome them?
So let me first start with the positive always. So the positive was the dream. And the dream was to give an educational environment with the student being at the center of it. So I'm a mom. I have a 26-year-old.
Wow.
And while my son was being educated, I felt the educational paradigm here was focused on giving the bare minimum because, of course, it's free. You can't give more than that for free. And I wasn't ready for that. I believe you have to keep the bar very high and see how far kids reach. And to that, I will say, in India, when you go to great schools, you see that. You see teachers mentor individuals and take them to levels that their family could not see. So I was fortunate to have a very supportive husband who supported this pipe dream of mine. So we actually took a home equity loan because I was so believed in this mission, and we started the school. So the first few, I would say the due diligence I had to do was understand the educational system. So that took a good 2 years. Look at where the gaps are, look at whether a new private school would work. I must say the fortunate part is that we as immigrant communities have seen a different educational model.
Absolutely.
So when we have seen that, we all think, come on, we had A, B, C, how come that's not here? So I was starting the school at the right time because there were a lot of people who could see our model and it resonated with them. So those were the positive people who came to ride this long ride with me. What were the hurdles? So the hurdles, definitely, this country is so transparent that it is so systematic. If you have done some sense of business development and if you worked at that level, definitely you have the training to put the business model together. But what we are not prepared for is the politics of putting an institution in a place. That is when you realize that it is political. You need to get permissions from the zoning board and the planning board. And many times those decisions are not objective. It could be, I live near there, I don't want to see children, therefore you cannot have a school. So you have to navigate that space. And for this, I will say we had some great, let me go back. Having support and your supportive crew is so important. So we have our school in Somerset, and Mr. Upendra Chivikula was the assemblyman at that time. So he was amazing because I would have many questions. He was the go-to person, and there I talk about comfort and cultural alignment. So he took the time to explain the whole process. So here, when you do business development, like for IT, industries, etc., you have your business model and you're looking for customers. When you're building a school, you have a lot of regulation. Right. Suddenly, the EPA wants a 6-month program where they need you to do this extensive study to see that there was no oil spills in the area. So suddenly you realize your project timeline is different. So that was challenging because you don't know what you don't know. So there was a steep learning curve. Right. But I will say we were successful. Yes, the project got delayed, but I will say I have always been surrounded by well-wishers. So what should have happened in 14 months Took 21 months, but that's no problem. In the end, we had happy children, happy families. And I think it is that attitude whereby they can't, like, if you see an obstacle, look at it as, okay, I need to learn more, and go choose an alternative path. So flexibility.
I would say just look at it as a learning.
Exactly. So it was resilience and flexibility.
Absolutely. So Nandini, I was just curious about this Cedar Hill prep, the kind of courses and curriculum you have there, and I would want you to talk about that and what do you like? What does it offer, especially for the parents if they are interested?
So to me, Cedar Hill Prep School mission is very simple. It is to create lifelong learners. And therefore, the tenets of it are very simple. Direct, explicit instruction. Break down how children learn and focus on what they need to learn. So we have a horizontally and vertically mapped our curriculum. Therefore, what you learn in preschool is built upon in pre-K, goes on to K, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 8th. Every subject is mapped this way. So what happens is, there is a lot of communication amongst the teachers. I have a lot of assessment parameters to see the growth. What most parents don't realize is in the United States, you have silos. Whether you go to a K through 12 school or you go to a public school, they all are individual entities. What happens in the elementary school is never discussed with the middle school, the feeding, who they feed to. Similarly to high school. So there are skill gaps. Who's filling it? When I did my research, I realized American curriculum is K through 8, 9 through 12. Right. So when you join 9th, many parents don't realize they're close to 6 levels. How many parents know what level their child is? It's because it is beyond them. They come from what they know in their country. And out there, it's a one-size-fits-all. There's one curriculum, everybody learns. There is no level, advanced, etc.
Right.
So there's a lot of learning for parents too in a system like here, which is differentiated from a deficit syndrome, which is the budget only allows us a few people to do the accelerated.
Right.
And we have to save our budget for the kids who need the special, like differential instruction. So the kids in the bell curve, the general, they are shafted. Right. It's sink or swim. So for me, on the other hand, creating a curriculum was beautiful because I could map it, we could see the visible outcomes, and we can constantly play with it. And this is why 90% of our students attend the top 70 colleges in the country. My school, my 8th graders get into all the most competitive boarding schools. It's because we explicitly teach language. We teach grammar, language mechanics. You don't see that in any school now.
Absolutely.
We teach math and science and social studies from kindergarten. Here, they teach that once a week or twice a week in 3rd and 4th. And there is no transparency, right? It's an opaque public educational system. So there was this opportunity to give the parents and the kids who wanted more for their child. So we front-loaded it, we endowed it so that we would be affordable for parents. And as you can see, we're terrible at raising funds because I spend so much time with the children, I haven't wrapped my head around creating a foundation. But I think the biggest advocates for Cedar Hill Prep are the alumni students, the alumni parents, our current students, our current teachers, and I couldn't ask for more.
It was wonderful learning for me. And as I said earlier, I wish I could go to school again. Because the way, you have been talking, it looks like a therapy to me.
Oh, you made my day.
Oh.
And I think education should be mission-driven. And I enjoy being with the children and I enjoy what we started. And this year, 2023, marks our 20th year. And we are grateful that people saw value in what we did and they're happy with the results in terms of visible learning from their children. And thank you for this opportunity.
Once again, thank you, Nandini, for coming to the studio. Thank you.